You could accept the fact that this city is headed for a disaster of biblical proportion.
What do you mean, biblical?
What he means is Old Testament, Mr.
Yes.
Mayor. Real wrath of God type stuff.
Exactly.
Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling.
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes.
The dead rising from the grave.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Live from Little Rock, it's Shane Plays Radio.
Welcome to Shane Plays Radio, Geek Talk Radio. I'm your host, Shane Stacks. We got a great show today. Whether you're a geek or whether you're just tapping into your inner geek, as Steve, who's running the Starship Enterprise, running the board in there, we were talking about earlier. Everybody has an inner nerd and inner geek, so this show is for you too. Welcome. And if you're listening at on 96.5 FM The Answer in Little Rock, glad to have you. If you're listening online via the 96.5 FM theanswer.com stream or on the iHeartRadio or TuneIn Radio apps, welcome. We're glad to have you no matter where you're at or who you are. So got a great show today. Going to be talking E3, the roundup, the big electronics expo that happens every year out in Vegas. A lot of news there. And then the second part of the show, we're going to have Michele Specht from Star Trek Continues, which is a really amazingly well done show by fans that are also professionals that are continuing the original series of Star Trek. So we'll be doing that. Our call-in number is 501-823-0965. That's 501-823-0965. You can also tweet me at Shane Place if you have a question, comment, whatever, either about E3 or when Michele joins us from Star Trek Continues. Feel free to call or tweet, and we will do our best to get to your questions and comments. Don't forget that we're very blessed to have sponsors on this show, but you can also support the show on Patreon, which is a way to just pledge as little as $1 per show to show your support if you want this kind of radio and podcast. As far as I know, it's a pretty unique radio show. I don't know anybody else, at least in the area I live in, doing this. And that's patreon.com/ShanePlays. And the podcast goes out soon after the show. And I put that on my blog, shaneplays.com, is, within a day or two after the show, sometimes at night, sometimes the next day. It's always on there, shaneplays.com. You can also find us on iTunes. So just look for for Shane Plays podcast on iTunes. So, and last, before we get started, show notes and links for everything I'm going to be talking about are on shaneplays.com right now. It's the most recent post. So you can actually follow along as I'm talking and keep up with what I'm talking about, and there's handy links and that sort of thing. So we have a lot to do today, so I'm going to get started. Remember, you can call in at 501-823-0965, or you can tweet me at ShanePlays. So, okay, some quick news that's not related to E3, and then we're going to jump right in to E3. So there's a lot of news out of E3. I'm going to try to cover as much of it as I can. Now, today, this is non-E3 news, is Free RPG Day. So that's Free Role-Playing Game Day. It's just like Free Comic Book Day, but completely different. So what that means is you can go to participating game stores and get some free RPG materials that are cool. So, and I can't speak for everywhere. There's a link on shaneplays.com in the show notes. And you can go there and you can find participating retailers. And I know that here in the Central Arkansas area, in Little Rock anyway, I typed in my zip code, and Game Goblins in Little Rock and the game store in Jacksonville are both participating. So go on out there if you stop in and tell them Shane Place sent you. So they're both great stores. So next thing, and I'm hoping to see this movie, talk a little bit more. Maybe next week we can talk about it. But Jurassic World just smashed records, big time. Have you seen it, Steve?
No, I have not, but I did have some folks that I'm friends with on Facebook took their families to watch it in 3D and said it was amazing.
Everybody,
3D.
Everybody's bragging. That's Steve, of course. Like I said, he's in there running the bridge of the Star Trek Enterprise. I asked Kendall, Steve, I said, are any of those buttons fake just to impress people? And he said no.
Yeah.
Now, is it all real?
It's on a need-to-know basis.
On a need, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's pretty crazy stuff in there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I want to see it. Hopefully we could talk about it next week. And then last, I wanted to congratulate, a couple of weeks ago, we had Corey and Lori Cole on the show. and they were talking about their Kickstarter for their game Hero U Rogue to Redemption, which is sort of a spiritual successor to their Quest for Glory series back in the day. And their Kickstarter made it. So very glad to hear that. Congratulations. And if you want to go listen to that interview, it's on the episode 2 of the podcast, and it's called The Rogue Is You. So you can do that through ShanePlays.com or iTunes or whatever.
For somebody who is not the nerd like you are, what exactly does a Kickstarter mean?
Well, a Kickstarter is it's basically where it's a site. It doesn't have to be just for nerdy stuff. They're using it for all kinds of stuff. But a lot of game companies are basically saying, here's what we want to do, and if we get enough people pledged to support it, then it'll happen.
I got you.
Yeah, and so, I mean, they're using it for movies. They're using it for games. They're using it for books. I think there's a prosthetic arm out there. I mean, you name it. And a lot of geeks are using it, but it doesn't have to be a geek-related thing, right?
So that you can go test out whatever the product is online and kind of take it for a test drive, and then decide if you want to continue to support it or.
Yeah, in a sense. I mean, they basically you've seen Shark Tank, right?
Sure.
Okay, so Shark Tank, they go in and they pitch the investors.
Right.
Okay, think of instead of pitching to investors, you're pitching millions of people and hoping that enough people throw in $1, $5, $20 each to meet a goal. And now if say I need $100,000 to do this. If you don't meet $100,000, nobody's pledge is taken. But if you hit that, then everybody's pledge is taken and it happens.
Oh, that's nice.
Pretty neat stuff.
Yeah, that's a good way to set it up. It's kind of a it has to make or you're not out anything.
Exactly.
That's a good guarantee.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, if you're not familiar with Kickstarter, a lot of stuff happening right now on Kickstarter that otherwise wouldn't be happening. So anyway, congratulations to Corey and Lori. So we're going to move into E3 and do as much of E3 as we can before roughly about 1:30 we'll have Michele Specht on from Star Trek Continues. So let's jump right into E3. If you don't know, E3, it stands for like Electronics something Expo. There's 3 E's, so they just call it E3. It happens in Vegas every year. And the joke is, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Yeah, whatever. But luckily for us, game news wise, it doesn't stay in Vegas. There's just news all over the place. It's like drinking from a fire hose. Now I'm going to round up the stuff that I thought was interesting. However, there's more. There's no way I can cover everything in this this few minutes that we have. So if I leave something out that's important to you, please, I'm not trying to offend you or say that's not important. There's only so much I can cover. But I'm going to throw a couple of quick mini rants. I like to rant a little bit every now and then, Steve. But here's a couple of mini rants. I'm going to keep them quick. One, E3 is supposedly for journalists. It's for game journalists to go learn about it. And it's also a trade show, but there's stuff that happens for journalists, and the journalists report back to us, right? And every year they have these press conferences full of journalists, and they hoot and they holler and they clap and they cheer like they're 10-year-olds. Now, that is not unbiased journalism. I mean, I know it's games, but they, Microsoft, Nintendo, Sony, they'll have what they call press briefings. They're basically just big sort of keynote, dog and pony press conferences. And I mean, they're cheering like it's the championship basketball game, right? And it just always turns me off because I'm like, you're supposed to be a journalist. And on the flip side, game journalists are always wanting to be taken more seriously as journalists. So you can't have it both ways, right? You can't go in there, jump around, hoot and holler, clap, yell, scream, but then also want to be taken seriously like you're writing, Pulitzer material.
Well, the same thing happens with covering Razorbacks. There's so many people from little small newspapers and things around. They just lose it in the press box, and that is so against the rules to cheer in the press box because you are the journalist.
You're supposed to be unbiased.
You're supposed to be unbiased. You're getting to watch the game for free. Right. You can't be cheering in the press box. It's the same thing.
Right. Well, to take it even a step further, here, a lot of when I read and share what these people are writing, it may entice me to put $50 down on a game. So, it even goes a step further than that. But I take your point. It's like, hey, if you're up in the press box, you're supposed to be reporting the facts. So that's always bugged me. Another thing, this bugs me, Steve, it always has, and I'm seeing it's been going on in the game industry for about 10 years now, and I'm seeing it in other industries. A lot of major game releases come out at Christmas. You know why that is? Because people are buying stuff for Christmas presents, right? Well, they always go, it'll be out holiday 2015. What holiday is that, Steve? Is that 4th of July? I mean, that bugs me. It's like they're trying not to offend anybody, but who are you fooling?
Nobody.
Yeah, 99% of the stuff that's bought at quote-unquote holiday is Christmas. And it just drives me nuts. I mean, I'm just, but anyway, let's get to the news. If you have opinion on that, if you think I'm being too, tolerant or whatever on that, you can 501-823-0965, or you can tweet me at Shane Plays. I'm already seeing tweets coming in for the Michele Specht. People are excited about that, so we'll get to those. But if you want to tweet about anything else, that's Shane Plays. Steve, let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to round up as much of the E3 news as we can before Michele comes on.
Privately owned and licensed by the Arkansas State Police, Rock City Alarm Company has been in business since 1996, specializing in sales, installation, servicing, and monitoring of burglar alarms and fire alarms for the state of Arkansas. Rock City Alarm provides service for residential and commercial alarms, and now provides cellular monitoring with remote arm and disarm. Just call John Hardiman at 501-541-8747. That's John Hardiman at 501-541-8747.
Call Chapman Service today for all your air conditioning and electrical concerns. 0% financing till January 2020 for a limited time. Voted best of the best for 5 years in a row. It's hard to stop a train. Chapman Service, all you want in an air conditioning and an electrical company. Nothing you don't.
Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/Shane Plays. In business for over 15 years, the Hillcrest Doghouse provides full grooming, bathing, boarding, and daycare services for just about all breeds with knowledgeable and friendly staff, including a licensed groomer with over 10 years experience. The Hillcrest Doghouse uses all natural shampoos, including a pesticide-free flea shampoo. All kennels are situated where we work, which means your companion is rarely left alone, providing the benefit of full interaction with our friendly staff. Additionally, we walk your dog at least 3 times a day to ensure a happy day. Grooming and boarding packages are also available at great prices. The Hillcrest Doghouse is located at 3924 West Markham Street in Little Rock. Call the Hillcrest Doghouse at 501-296-9800. That's 501-296-9800. We're also on Facebook. Find us and like us.
All right, and we're back. So I love those little dog barks. I don't know. I think I like that a lot. So, okay, so right into E3. We're going to do as much of this as we can. People, this is drinking from fire hose. Okay, there's a lot of information. So first up, and you can go to shaneplays.com. The first post there is show notes and links for all this to help you keep up or refer later. First, we're going to hit Microsoft. Their press conference, here's a quick breakdown of what I saw. They let out with Halo 5, which that's going to make a lot of people excited. And what's unique about this is you're actually playing 2 squads. You're following the storyline of 2 different squads, and there's also 24-player multiplayer. They showed some Hitman. To me, that was boring. I know that people like Hitman. That's fine. But it was just, there's a couple of trailers like this that always happen where it's just like, yeah, it's more the same, but with different graphics. So if you like Hitman, good for you. That wasn't that big for me. Now, No Man's Sky. This game they've been talking about for a year or two. It's a space game, but it's also a planet-side game. And what's interesting about it, it's all procedurally generated, which means that every planet, and I guess maybe the universe, is randomly generated. The creatures, the terrain, the plants, but it looks great and it all makes sense. And you can, it's the only game I've seen where you can be flying around in space, get into a battle. It's first-person perspective. Then you fly to a planet, land on the planet, literally pop open the cockpit in first person, jump out and run around the planet. You can go underwater. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff. It's all seamless. There's no loading. Hey, you're on the planet now. Wait till it loads. It's just seamless. It showed warp, and it just looked really cool. I could probably spend a whole show talking about this. So keep an eye out for No Man's Sky. That's going to be on Xbox and PC. There was this game called Dreams that looked just really cool, and the way they explained it was it was like a moving painting or like lucid dreaming, and it was just neat. Very like you could just make anything you wanted, and then you could animate it like a puppet. And I love radio, but some stuff you just have to see. So I would recommend looking up this game called Dreams, and the link is on ShaneBlaze.com. But it came out of the press conference. It's super cool. There's a first-person game called Firewatch, and what caught my attention on this was that the story is that you're like a warden out in like Montana or something like that. So you're like the ranger, the park ranger. And then, you're doing the, hey, we've lost some campers or whatever. But then like this kind of story develops, where it looks like, maybe something sinister is going on, and you're talking, you have a radio, and the only person you're talking to is, I guess, the dispatcher, and you kind of build a relationship with the dispatcher as the game goes. So that looked neat. For fans of Destiny, there's an update coming out called The Taken King. I don't know much about Destiny. I know it's kind of like a first-person shooter with role-playing game elements, and it's massively multiplayer. I know a lot of people like it, and this looked pretty neat. So if you're into Destiny, there's more coming. Everyone keeps talking about Assassin's Creed. They showed some more of that. It's set in 19th century London. And what caught my attention was the guy that was presenting it mentioned there was going to be Sherlock Holmes references from Arthur Conan Doyle. So I don't know exactly I don't know if you're going to get into mysteries like Sherlock Holmes. I don't know, but that caught my eye. Now, here's a huge piece of news. Huge. And like people, I know I'm going quick. I apologize for that. So much to cover. Final Fantasy VII is being remade. And for a lot, now not for me personally, but for a lot of people, Final Fantasy VII is like is just like a defining moment in gaming. It just really set the bar on gaming. It affected a lot of people emotionally, and they're remaking it. So that's huge news for a lot of people. And I'm hearing like hints there may be they may change up the story a little bit. I'm not for sure, but that's what I'm hearing. They showed a little bit of Batman Arkham Knight. There's going to be some sort of Scarecrow missions, I guess, that are DLC in addition to the main thing. They showed some Call of Duty. Once again, kind of boring to me. Not that the game didn't look good, but it was just like, hey, here's, it's like the same trailer we've seen for other Call of Duty games, just with better graphics. So, it's not interesting to me personally as a piece of news. This is interesting. Now, Disney Infinity it's kind of like there's a game out there called Skylanders where you buy little plastic figures and they can go into the game.
Yeah.
Okay, well, they have one on Xbox called Disney Infinity, and It's with the Disney characters. Well, there's an update coming where you can play Star Wars characters in it now. Yeah, so that's pretty cool, right?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and they showed some really like Boba Fett and Luke Skywalker and, Chewbacca, Han Solo. And they have Marvel characters from the Marvel comics.
I've seen the Marvel, yeah.
So now you can play, when this update comes out, you can play Disney, Marvel, and Star Wars.
And this is on what platform?
Xbox.
Just Xbox.
Xbox, yeah, since it's Microsoft. I'm pretty sure it's not on PC. I could be wrong. But you've got to buy the little plastic. Yeah, and that's big right now that Nintendo's making money hand over foot with these things. They're called Amiibo or something like that. They showed a new trailer for the new Star Wars Battlefront game. I like Battlefront. I didn't see anything new in the trailer. It just looked neat. So it's a first-person multiplayer. You're doing battles in first-person shooter multiplayer in the Star Wars universe. Now, Fallout 4 is huge. The Fallout games franchise is just big, and they showed some of that. And there was a lot of really neat things that I could go into on Fallout, but I guess, for the interest of time, probably the biggest news is that they are allowing, in PC games, you can do what's called a mod. And that's where you change the game to make it more like something you want it to do. And that's been on PCs for a long time. Well, they're going to allow mods that are created on the PC to be brought over to the Xbox One. So that's big news. Let's see. Other news that was big, Xbox One, and this was a really big announcement, is going to be backwards compatible with Xbox 360 games. And that's big because now all these games that you've already bought, you don't have to rebuy them, or, you can go ahead and play them on Xbox One, and that was really big. Another thing they did was the Xbox Game Preview, which is basically kind of like an early access on Steam, or like the Steam has early access where you can kind of pay to play games while they're still in development, and that looks like that's going to happen on Xbox. Okay. And the last thing from Microsoft was the HoloLens, which is it's augmented reality, not virtual reality. And what that does is it adds things to, like if you put these on, you still see the room you're in, but then gameplay elements will overlay on top of what you're seeing. Other people can't see it. You have to have the glasses on, and they showed that, and it looked really good. They showed playing Minecraft first on a wall and then on a table, and it looked really crazy. So that was cool. But then there's an article, and this is on the show notes in shaneplays.com. Somebody came back and said, hey, not so fast. That Minecraft demo is misleading. And what they were saying is that, yes, the augmented reality is really there, but the field of vision that you have is much more limited than what they showed in the demo. Okay, so I still think it's really cool. All right, Sony. Let's jump into Sony real quick. Once again, you can go to shaneplays.com, and the press conference is linked there. They let out with a game called The Last Guardian, which is sort of a spiritual, I don't know if it's a direct sequel to games called ICO and Shadow of the Colossus. Looked great. There's this big animal that this boy is playing with, and the game just looked great. So I would recommend you check out the footage from The Last Guardian. They announced the last Uncharted game, the Drake's Fortune games, which are sort of like 80s action-adventure movies, but in a game version. And what was interesting about this is they showed a crowd scene where the characters are sort of pushing their way through a crowd, and there's so many character models, and it looked great and it worked seamlessly. I was impressed with that. And then they showed a lot of like sort of Jeep and driving. There was a long extended sequence of driving, which looked really fun. They mentioned Project Morpheus, which is like virtual reality, not augmented reality, but they didn't talk much about it. Now this was big. This is huge to me, Steve. I've wanted this for a long time. They have this thing called PlayStation View, and it's going to allow you to subscribe to individual channels without having to buy a channel bundle. So let me break that. And this is big. I've wanted this for 20 years. I want, let's say, Animal Planet. I don't want the 20 other channels I got to buy to get that. So I don't know what all channels are going to be on this, but this is very interesting to me. So
it's almost an a la carte thing that the cable companies says, oh, we can't do that. Yeah, we just can't
can't do it. But no, we can.
They can. Yeah, they don't want to.
They don't want to. I'm big on this. So I'm going to keep an eye on this.
You and about every other person listening is big on that.
Yeah, so I'm huge on this. Okay, so real quick, Nintendo, we're just going to go a couple more minutes. So we're going to take a break. And then Michele Specht is already holding, waiting for Uhura to open the communication channels to bring her in from Star Trek Continues. We will get to Michele, but I want to wrap up a little bit more news from Nintendo. Now, Nintendo did this thing called a digital event. They didn't have a press conference. They just showed a video. A lot of people are really upset. They felt that Nintendo's showing was really poor at this E3, to the point where the Nintendo CEO actually issued basically Satoru Iwata, the CEO of Nintendo, basically said on Twitter, we take opinions of this year's digital event seriously and will work to better meet your expectations. Okay. Vince, come on in real quick, buddy. Hey, Vince, I just got you real quick, buddy, and then I got to wrap up the news and get to Michele. But what can I do for you, buddy?
Actually, I'm on hold for Michele.
Okay, that's fine. We'll get back to you. Okay, so, people are excited about Michele. So, but he actually issued an apology, and then the CEO, Nintendo CEO of America, Nintendo, Reggie Fils-Aimé, came back and said, no, we're not apologizing. We make great games. But let me read you a quote, Steve, from how this went. This was somebody, people take their games seriously, Steve. Listen to this. Somebody posted this after Nintendo's digital event, not press briefing. I was literally shaking with anger during that conference. Tears formed in my eyes and my fists were clenched. Announce something, I shrieked at my computer. I'm 31 years old, and this was, without a doubt, the worst conference I've ever seen in my life. It's clear that Nintendo is not just done with the Wii U, but done with the company. There is no recovering from a conference that bad. I love this company and put my heart and soul into dedicating my gaming life to them. But now I have nothing. I am an empty shell. Are you? I'm sorry, Steve. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, like I said, we've got to get to Michele. She's patiently waiting, but I'll mention a couple more things. I could probably do a whole show on Nintendo. There's people really upset about it. But they mentioned their Amiibo, which are these little plastic figures you buy, and it lets you play them in games. And now some Amiibos are going to double as Skylanders. That's kind of big news. Probably the biggest news for me that I thought was neat was that there's this game called Mario Maker that's going to allow you to make your own Mario games, right?
Very
like
cool.
Super Mario Bros.
Sure.
And if people go to Best Buy today, Steve, at noon through 5 o'clock local time, they can play. At Best Buy today, they can play the Mario Maker. So get yourself on over to Best Buy. I had some other news I was going to mention. I'm going to, in the interest of making the best use of Michele's time from Star Trek Continues, she's calling in from lovely Los Angeles. I'll just mention there's a game I'm very interested in called Sword Coast Legends that is a Dungeons and Dragons based game, but also allows people to be the DM, if you will. I'm very interested in this. And then there's a Transformers Devastation game that it looks like the old 80s Transformers cartoon. And I'm really excited about that. So there's other stuff I could get into. There's notes on ShanePlays.com if people want to go take a look at there. Some of the stuff I didn't get to. Let's do this real quick, Steve. Let's take our second break. And then when we come back, it will be uninterrupted time with Michele Specht of Star Trek Continues.
Comic book lovers, Michael Tierney's local comic book stores meet all of your comic book needs with friendly service. Visit the comic book store on Treasure Hill Road in Little Rock or Collector's Edition on JFK Boulevard in North Little Rock. And don't forget to click on over to the wildstars.com website. I personally have been a customer of Michael's since the mid-'80s, and I trust him for my reserve list still today. Michael knows comics. In addition to being in business for 34 years, he has written multiple columns for comic magazines, is an Overstreet price guide advisor, and publishes his own comic book series, The Wild Stars. Trust me, these stores are run by a comic book lover for comic book lovers. Remember, for all of your comic book needs with friendly service and to get your copies of The Wild Stars, make sure to visit the comic book store on Treasure Hill Road in Little Rock or Collector's Edition on JFK Boulevard in North Little Rock, and visit thewildstars.com to learn more. Did you know that your business can provide its employees with the same benefits packages as even the largest Fortune 500 companies, often at no direct cost to you, the business owner, and while saving money at the same time? If you've always thought that you would like to offer those big company benefits to your employees but thought that there was no way, let our team at the Make 'em Teague Agency come by and show you how it can be possible and how simple it is to put into place. We offer major medical and group and individual plans, on or off exchange, dental and vision, life products, cancer, accident, and more. These benefits create that ever so priceless commodity known as loyalty. And yes, we are ACA certified. We even offer these same benefits on the individual basis if you're just a one-person entrepreneur or making things happen on your own. Give us a call today at 501-838-6827 to schedule your no-obligation on-site consultation. The Make 'em Teague Agency is serving all of Arkansas and surrounding states. 501-838-6827. Give us 1% of your trust, and we'll earn the other 99.
Okay, and we're back. Real quick, guys, some listener feedback from Josh. Yeah, I forgot to mention Star Fox is probably the biggest Nintendo thing. It's coming back in a big way where you can play it on two different screens at the same time. So I did want to mention that out of Nintendo. I had to cut that short for time. But thanks, Josh, for the reminder on that. Now, we have right now waiting on the phone, we have Michele Specht of Star Trek Continues, and we already have two callers who are patiently waiting. So Vince and Jeannie, I believe. We will get to you. Now, Michele, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can. Now, Michele, before we get going, we have a tradition/rule here on Shane Plays. And anytime we talk Star Trek, we have to lead with this, so I apologize in advance. Star Trekking across the universe. On the Starship Enterprise, on their Hey, okay, so I apologize in advance, and please don't send me your therapy bills on that. So, yeah. So I'll tell you, sometimes that's what doing a radio show feels like, is we're boldly going forward because we can't find reverse. But anyway, welcome so much, or thank you so much, and welcome to the show. I got to tell you, there's a lot of excitement for you being on. I've seen a lot of activity on Twitter and social media, and then we've already got 2 callers. So what I'm going to do.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do, because they've been patiently waiting, and what I'm going to do, because we got started a couple of minutes late with you, we're going to carry you all the way up to the end of the show. Normally we drop people a couple of minutes early. We're going to carry you all the way up through the close till the curtain drops. So, but I just want to mention real quick to people, Michele does play Dr. Elise McKenna on the show Star Trek Continues, which is up to episode 4. You can find it on YouTube or at StarTrekContinues.com. It's amazing, faithful, professional continuation of the original Star Trek series by fans that are also professionals. Looks amazing. She's also an actress in other regards, and she's done some voice acting in video games. And if you go to ShanePlays.com, or if you go to Michele Specht, and that's SPECHT.com, and that's linked at ShanePlays.com in the show notes, you can find her website, and she also has an IMDb page. So this is not all she does. She does more than that. So, but I guess if you don't mind, Michele, I guess we can jump right into the calls if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well,
absolutely.
All right. Let's have Vince first there. I guess, Steve. I think we're working on it right now. There's actually 3 calls lined up. This is the most I've ever seen lined up at one time. So
I am so honored. I'm freaking out. I think I'm more excited than they are. This is so cool.
That is cool. All right. So, Vince, do we have you?
Hello?
Hey, is this Vince?
Yes, it is.
Hey, Vince, what's your question or comment for Michele of Star Trek Continues?
Well, first of all, Michele is awesome on Twitter to all of her followers, so I want to thank her for that. She's great to everyone on that site. But my question for you, Michele, is, when you show Star Trek Continues to people, there's nobody that's ever disappointed by the quality or the plot. My question to you is, what's the long-term, what do you see as the long-term future of the show? And does it get frustrating for you and the cast knowing that what you guys put out on the web is basically better than 99% of what's on television today?
Oh, dang. I would agree with that. All right,
wow.
Vince.
Well, number one.
Yeah, okay. No, Vince is gone, so we'll let you answer that with him off the air. But I would agree with that. The production quality is excellent, Michele, but I'll let you address this question.
Well, number one, I just want to say hi to Vince. Vince22 on Twitter. I love him. He's called into another live show that I was on, and I just think it's the coolest thing ever. We're like connected via interwebs, and it's amazing. Hi, Vince. In response to his question, what we'd love to see happen is, because we literally have picked up exactly where the series left off at the end of their 3rd season. Of course, they were intended to have a 5-year mission, and they only were able to complete 3. So the ultimate goal of what we would love to do, and in our greatest fantasy, what we are able to do, is to finish out the 4th and 5th seasons of the original series. That is our goal. We're even already starting to plot kind of storylines and character arcs that will allow us to end at the end of that 5th series right where the motion pictures picked up.
And I think that's great. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I mean,
that's exactly what we're trying to do, kind of with story arcs, so that when we end this, it's basically like we filled in that 2-year gap of the one Star Trek show that we never got back, which was the original series.
Right. And when you say it picks up literally where the original series, I mean, it picks up immediately after the ending scene of Star Trek, the original series. Yeah, literally.
Yeah, we recreated the very last episode that was ever aired was Turnabout Intruder, and we created the last 5 minutes of Turnabout Intruder shot for shot. And when the turbo lift doors closed, that was the end of Star Trek. But we just keep going.
Yeah, and I love that. And you've also introduced, in a way that feels right, you've also introduced the holodeck. And then, you've introduced your character is kind of the beginnings of having a counselor on the ship. So, in fact, the most recent episode, The White Iris, really establishes to Captain Kirk the importance of that. But we actually have 3 more callers lined up. So I think our next caller is Gina, if I understand correctly. Gina, are you with us? Jeannie.
It's actually Jeannie.
Jeannie, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
All right. What is your question and or comment for Michele Specht of Star Trek Continues?
Well, I love Michele. I think she knows that. But
I love Jeannie.
Love you. Anyway, I feel like I know all this stuff about Vic and how Vic got into Star Trek and Vic's whole childhood, thrills with Star Trek and Captain Kirk, but I don't feel like you've ever told us your story of how you got into Star Trek as a kid, and whether it was your family that was into it or whether it was just you, or how you got into being a fan. So I just wanted to know that about you.
Okay. Hi, Jeannie. Number one, I love Jeannie. I also know Jeannie very well, and she is an amazing, amazing person. So I just love the fact that she called in. Hi, Jeannie. And again, just as a side note, you meet the coolest flippin' people when you get involved in the Star Trek world, because Star Trek fans are the best. I'm just going to say that. Okay. That was a great
they're
question.
Cool. Yeah.
They are. They're awesome. I love them. And basically, I was just a huge sci-fi nerd as a kid. It wasn't until junior high that I started watching. My entrance into Star Trek world and fandom was TNG, The Next Generation. That's what I grew up on watching.
Oh, okay.
Deanna Troi was my favorite character. It was the first kind of episodic sci-fi show that I watched absolutely religiously. And from there is kind of what was my intro into the rest of the Star Trek world. It wasn't until I met Vic about 8 or 9 years ago that he was horrified, absolutely horrified, that I had never sat down and watched the original series. Which is, justifiable in a way, because that series really did start this country's love affair with science fiction and all things sci-fi and things you can trace back kind of our most popular series and kind of our love back to that original show. So when I started sitting down and watching it as an adult, I'm really glad I did that as an adult, because you could more readily love and kind of appreciate what they were doing and the time in which they were doing it.
Right.
Culturally, what was happening, stories and issues that they were able to address that you could never have addressed if you'd spoken the actual words of what they were addressing.
Exactly.
You put it into space, you paint people different colors, and all of a sudden
that was one of the things that Gene Roddenberry wanted to do and that was a big purpose of his, was to talk about stuff. And that a good science fiction does that a lot. It talks about things in terms that, and I'm not trying to make a pun here, it lowers people's shields and gets the message through in a way that that like a news report or two people arguing on TV would not. So
exactly.
Yeah.
We have a lot of amazing science fiction out there now. I mean, special effects and just what we've been able to do technologically, because of a lot of the things that were kind of preemptively predicted in Star Trek.
Oh, definitely.
Put that out there. Has allowed us to do in crazy, amazing, and beautiful and wondrous things and take us on adventures. But what's at the core of the original series and why I think people love it so much and why it has been so enduring is because of the moral and ethical dilemmas that were challenged and battled with on that show.
Right.
And the fact that they were set in space had nothing to do with how they touched us right here on Earth. And it presented a version of humanity and a future that we all wanted to be a part of. We were better than where we are now.
Yeah, and that's
this humanity that is created is one. That's a future I want to be a part of.
And
I want to be a part of that future.
Right, and that's a future a lot of people want to be a part of, which is attractive to a lot of people. Real quick, and then that stuff was great. We've got, the calls are just lining up. I think next we have Sarai, if I'm saying that correctly. If I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, I apologize. And I believe Steve was passing me some notes. He's running the board. This possibly has some sort of connection with the show. I'm not sure.
Yes,
we'll find out.
Do you know who Sarai is? First of all, Sarai Trek. She is a beautiful little 4-year-old girl who played Miramani's child in our last episode. She was the little girl. This is Sarai.
Oh, hi, Sarai. Welcome to the show.
And Sarai has her own little show on YouTube. Look up Sarai Trek, and she reviews original episodes and our episodes, and they're amazing.
Oh.
So anyway, that's who Sarai is. Hi, Sarai. Hi.
Hi, sweetheart. Welcome to the show. I thought you did a very good job, and I love that big hug that you gave Captain Kirk in the white iris.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And you have your own show. It's called Sarai. Now, how do I spell that? Sarai or?
AI, yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
So people look up.
Oh my gosh, does she have a question?
Yeah. Do you have a question, Sarai?
Ask her.
What's your favorite character?
That's a good question.
I think I know why Sarai is asking this. And yes, you are right. You can look up Sarai Trek on YouTube to find her show. It is amazing. I highly recommend you do so.
Okay, I'll do that.
I think Sarai's asking you who my favorite character is because she and I have the same favorite character.
Let me see if I can guess.
Okay.
I'm going to say Mr. Spock.
Yes!
Yeah.
Because you're brilliant, Shane. You're absolutely right. Sarah and I both love Mr. Spock. He is our absolute favorite character in all of Star Trek.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you, Sarai, I like Mr. Spock, too. Now, I like it's all, the dynamic between Kirk, Spock, and McCoy is a character of its own. So it's hard, the way they interact. But, yes, I love Mr. Spock. He's one of the most unique and enduring characters in all of TV or literature, in my opinion. And I loved that line that the writers, whoever wrote this line that said, he said it's not just logic, there's also spirituality and it works together. I'm misquoting, but I loved that line in The White Iris. Whoever wrote that, needs a bro fist and a high five at the same time. So
yeah, well, Vic Mignogna, who plays our Captain Kirk, and James Kerwin, who directed this episode, worked on that script together, so I'm sure it came out of both their brains. That was as good of a line, an impactful line that could become part of Star Trek lore as anything else. That was excellent. So, right. Well, we consider ourselves very honored to be the one show that has the full support of Gene Roddenberry's family.
Oh, that's great.
I mean, Rod Roddenberry just thinks the world of us and has said on more than one occasion that in his opinion, he kind of considers us canon now.
Wow.
Which is like when he said that, he said that at our episode 3 Ferris of the Mall screening in Las Vegas last year. I nearly lost.
You're like, can I get that in writing?
I lost it. Well, he tweeted it. I captured the tweet.
Okay.
I posted it everywhere because it was kind of amazing.
Well, that's really an honor. Now, I'm not going to knock other people because there are other people out there doing similar stuff. And I'm not going to knock them, but your stuff is excellent. I mean, it's really well done. You can tell the professionals are doing it. You can tell there's love of Star Trek and the look. I'll tell you what blows me away. If people haven't seen this, run, don't walk to your YouTube right now. Run, don't walk.
Or Vimeo if you want to see it.
Or Vimeo, or on the Star Trek Continues site. It looks, the lighting, the colors, everything look just like it was shot in that bright Technicolor look of the 60s. So we've got a couple more callers here. The hits just keep coming, Michele. So we're going to keep setting them up and knocking them down. I did want to mention, speaking of official support, and Sarai, thank you for calling in earlier. Thank you so much. And I'm going to look up your YouTube channel. So I think that is so cool. So one thing I know, recently there was a brief problem on YouTube with a copyright issue over the White Iris episode, which just came out, but CBS actually intervened with YouTube on your behalf to make sure that the video got back up, and that is great. Yeah. So I mean,
we still haven't figured out exactly what that was. We think it was some sort of glitch on YouTube's algorithm,
right?
And at first, we got really freaked out, and we actually spoke to the VP of CBS Legal in New York, like directly on the phone a few times. And she was like, no, it wasn't us on our part. We really like what you're doing. Let's figure out what it is. And then they couldn't, there was no one on their end. They checked through the other people and they're like, nope, wasn't us. So they contacted YouTube a few weeks ago to put the link back up, but YouTube just kind of took their time and it stayed there for
weird.
It stayed on hold for a couple weeks. And then YouTube checked in and said, CBS called us back and said, hey, why isn't your episode back up? And we're like, we don't know. So they contacted YouTube again on our behalf and basically directed them one more time, hey, get that back up, which is amazing. We are so grateful to CBS. We're so grateful that they allow us and are kind of giving their blessings to this endeavor, and we are just very grateful for their help.
That is fantastic. I mean, that just shows the quality of what you're doing and that they're not afraid that you're trampling on the lore of Star Trek or anything like that or making it look bad. Now, Steve, I'm not going to bring a caller in yet. We have 2 more callers waiting. I guarantee you I will get to you folks. Please, thank you for being patient. There's a couple of things, I just want to make sure to get to with Michele. And this is kind of off tangent, but let me ask you this, Michele. Do you love saying the name Habercorn? That's like the best name in history, Habercorn.
It's actually pronounced Habercorn.
Okay, even better, Habercorn. I love that name. Okay, I'm not making fun of it. Like when I'd be like, here comes Habercorn, I would just take every opportunity I could to say Habercorn when he came on set. So like, do y'all do this like when this is the guy that plays Mr. Spock, and he does a very good job doing it. But I just imagine it's like when he shows up, there's like this, Mr. Habercorn is on the set. And then there's like this hushed silence. Does it happen that way?
Actually, we refer to him as El Spocko.
El Spocko. Okay. Well, I just love that. And like I said, it sounds like I'm making fun of that. I'm not. I love it. I just could say that name over and over.
I will pass that on to Todd.
Habercorn.
His name.
and Todd Habercorn is Mr. Spock. So, okay. Anyway, back to the serious stuff. Everybody on the show's good, from Vince to the person who plays Bones, who plays Uhura, who plays, and y'all have had some pretty big names on the show. Y'all have had Lou Ferrigno.
Oh, yeah.
You had the original. Go ahead.
Again as well.
Who's that?
I'm sorry. We got to paint him green again as
well.
Oh,
yeah. Because he played an Orion Slaver. Because when he showed up, I was like, is that Lou Ferrigno? And then y'all have had, what is it? The guy who originally played Apollo. Is it Apollos?
Yes.
Yeah, he
Michael
came back.
Forrest.
Yeah, the original guy came back.
We actually had 2 Apollos on that episode. Our very first episode, Pilgrim of Eternity, we had Jamie Bamber as our guest star from Battlestar Galactica. The new Battlestar Galactica, who played Apollo, was our first red shirt. He was destroyed out on the hull, poor thing, with Grant Imahara, who plays our Sulu. And we had Michael Forrest reprise his role as Apollo from the original series.
I didn't realize that was. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't realize that was.
I was just going to say that was fun.
I did not realize that was Jamie Bamber. And then recently on the White Iris, I'm also a classic Doctor Who fan, and y'all had Colin.
Me too.
Yeah, y'all had Colin Baker. In fact, if you put a gun to my head, I'd have to watch Classic Who over New Who, even though I like them both. But I just love that cheesy classic Doctor Who. I could watch it constantly. But Colin Baker, who played the Sixth Doctor, was in the White Iris.
Yes, we've had amazing guest stars. We've also had the beautiful and effervescent Aaron Gray, played our Commodore in episode 3.
Oh, okay.
He was absolutely incredible. I'm going through my mind here. And of course the ladies that we had guest star in this episode. Amazing. They were amazing. Tiffany Brower, Adrienne Wilkinson from Star Trek Renegades, and who used to be on Xena Warrior Princess. And we had Nakia Bareth, who was a Power Ranger. She was the Yellow Power Ranger. She was awesome. We were very lucky. I think it's mostly because Vic, has been in entertainment as a voice actor for video games and animated TV shows for about 20 years. And so he does a number of pop culture convention appearances and is lucky enough to be really good buddies with a bunch of these people.
So he's got it. He has what used to be called a strong Rolodex. So,
Yes.
All right. We've got, our closing music is going to kick off here in 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll have about a minute or two after that. Yeah, I was just saying, let's get to the callers. Okay, so bring in line 2 there, Steve, or line 5. It doesn't matter. Cal, jump on. Hey,
Shane.
Hey, is this my buddy Calvin?
It certainly is.
All right. Well, I have to say on the air, Calvin, nothing good shambles. That's our old role-playing joke. Nothing good shambles. What's your comment or question for Michele Specht, Calvin?
Well, hi, Michele. It's an honor to talk to you.
Hi, Calvin. Honored to talk to you too. Thank you for calling.
And I was wondering, of the 4 episodes done so far, which has been your favorite?
Uh-oh. That's dangerous territory.
Oh, that's hard. I would have to say, that's really hard. The first one, I think maybe because it was so early on, but I just love the storyline so much because it was completely original. Lolani, that dealt with basically sex trafficking and kind of what that means through the plight of our Orion slave girl Lolani. I really loved that episode. I thought it kind of hit on all cylinders and was incredibly poignant and beautiful and unexpected. The ending is completely unexpected and so very Trek. But this most recent episode, I got to tell you, I think this is the meat of the matter too. What we deal with in the white iris. So I would have to say those two are neck and neck, Leilani and the white iris.
Well, okay. I'll tell you what I like them all. What I liked about the white iris, and then we're going to get to Mark and let him ask his question or make his comment. You know, a lot of times, like they'll put their characters through all kinds of trauma, but they'll never have to deal with the fallout from it. And the white iris forced Captain Kirk to deal with the fallout of these tragic relationships that he's had. And I thought that was really interesting that y'all chose to do that. I don't know if you have a comment on that. If not, we can go ahead and get to Mark.
Well, I'll make a quick one because I do want to get to Mark. I absolutely think that was at the heart of what it was, that every decision, no matter how just or noble your intentions may be, nor how needed the decision might have been, we always have emotional fallout. And it's just as damaging not to deal with that as it is to not to deal with, an actual physical bomb about to explode.
Right.
So I really, there have been a lot of folks who wrote into it. I got the most.
All right. Let's, Steve, if we could, let's kind of drop the volume on the music and let it kind of go out. And let's bring Mark on the line real quick and let him ask his question.
Okay.
Mark, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Your question or comment for Michele?
Hey, Michele, great to talk to you. I have a question about your scene in the white iris with Kirk. How did that come to pass? Did you have a hand in writing that, et cetera? That was a very pivotal scene.
All right. And let me just interrupt, Mark. We're going to let you go. Michele, you got about 30 seconds to answer that, and then we'll take the show out.
All right. That was kind of basically the brainchild of Vic, because he really wanted to kind of have a thoughtful and kind of appropriate resolution for Captain Kirk in this matter, and it wasn't something that anybody else could really help him out with, so it just made sense to have the counselor do so.
And it also established the need for a ship's counselor.
Exactly.
Yeah, Michele, thanks so much for being on. I'm gonna have, if you're open to it, we're gonna have you, maybe some other people back on again sometime. There's obviously a demand to talk with you folks. Keep doing what you're doing. It's so great. Thanks so much for coming on, and keep making the great Star Trek continues that you're doing. We are out in 5 seconds. Bye, Michele.